our marriages should be the strongest in the world, right? Like, we have restored doctrine that should make our families look different than the rest of the world.
If you want something to last forever, you treat it differently. You shield it and protect it. You never abuse it. You don't make it common or ordinary. It becomes special because you have made it so. And it grows more beautiful and precious as time goes by.
And I will say, talking about marriages and strengthening marriages, the more I got thinking about it, I was like, no wonder why a lot of people don't talk about this, because nobody has the perfect marriage, right? We can't just not talk about it just because we haven't become it yet, because that's not helping us get towards what we're looking for.
Eternal marriage is just like that. We need to treat it just that way. One of the most important things that we can do in this life is find that companion of yours you want to spend eternity with. Welcome in here on Zion Media. I'm really excited about this episode. We're going to be talking about marriage and becoming one, becoming unified. But before we jump into it, shout out to my BYU Cougars. So my son and I, we went to the game, and I am telling you, we had the greatest time. I'm going to show you a picture. This is my son and I right here. At this time, we knew the game was over. The Cougars won. That's 3 in a row. And it was a rough go for us for a while. I got my BYU blue on today. It felt so good to go to church the day after the Cougars won. My heart is full. And I don't know if they won because I saw Elder Bednar there at the game. So maybe Elder Bednar, if you're watching this, will you please go to all home games for the rest of your time here on earth? I think Elder Bednar may have just been the good luck charm the Cougars needed. But great game. It was awesome. And, I didn't find any Utah fans that were what people say they were. I felt like everybody was kind. Everybody was Christ-like. They're following the prophet. They're being peacemakers. But I did see a lot of Utah people put on a black sweater, zip it up after they knew the game was over and they weren't repping their red. But that's okay. I'd probably done the same thing if I were them. So awesome work, BYU Cougars. They're 7-0, ranked number 11 in the country. Maybe this is a year, maybe, just maybe, they win a natty, and that would be awesome. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about marriage. There's one thing that I've learned through Zion Media. One big thing. I've learned a lot of things, but there's one big thing that I'm understanding, and I don't know if it's a problem in the world, but it certainly appears to be a challenge inside of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And one of the things that I'm finding is people reach out to me. They'll be on a spiritual path going this way, and their spouse will be on a different path going the other way. And it's been challenging to find couples that are on the same path together. And so hopefully what we're going to talk about today and what Bailey's going to share, and by the way, we got Bailey back. She was such a huge hit last time that we brought her back on. And listen, I got a tender place in my heart for Bailey because she comes from the land that I'm from. And I'm telling you, that land produces some of the best people on the planet. That's right, Ogden. Ogden of all places, South Ogden to be specific, but it does produce some of the best humans on the planet. And so I'm grateful to have her back. We're going to be joined by Drea, and you can see there's an empty seat right here. Because eventually, I woke my wife up this morning. I'm like, hey, would you mind coming on podcast with me? She's like, do I have to? I'm like, you don't have to, but I'd like you to. And so I didn't think she was going to make it. And I texted her and she said, yeah, I'll be there. This shows me that we are one. She's just putting on some makeup, and she's she's different than me. I wake up early, go to bed early. She's more of a night out, likes to get her beauty sleep, and so we kind of the yin and yang there. So anyways, well, Bailey, welcome back to the program. Let's jump into your presentation. Let's jump into your slides. Unless you got, give us a little preview before we jump into it. Where are we going today? What are we talking about?
Okay, so we're just jumping off right where we left off. So I was on the podcast a few weeks ago, as Shane mentioned. Sorry.
It's okay. They call me Sean, John, Shane. It's all good.
All of it. You'll take it all. Great. Well, we talked about marriage and we talked a little bit about the covenant path. So I've kind of built it all right in. So let's just jump into the slides.
Beautiful.
First, I wanted to say, this is so amazing that we decided to talk about marriage. Dre, will you go to the next slide? We talked about it right before General Conference and right out the last conference talk out of General Conference this October. Dallin H. Oaks, our new prophet, in his talk, The Family-Centered Gospel of Jesus Christ. Go to the next slide. He addressed this very thing that Shane brought up the other day. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are struggling in their marriages. And he said that exact same thing. Dre, would you read this slide for us?
Yeah. In the United States, we are suffering from a deterioration in marriage and childbearing. For nearly 100 years, the proportion of households headed by married couples has declined, and so has the birth rate. The marriages and birth rates of our church members are much more positive, but they have also declined significantly. It is vital that Latter-day Saints do not lose their understanding of the purpose of marriage and the value of children. That is the future for which we strive. Exaltation is a family affair, President Nelson has taught us. Only through the saving ordinances of the gospel of Jesus Christ can families be exalted. The national declines in marriage and childbearing are understandable for historic reasons, but Latter-day Saints values and practices should improve, not follow these trends.
So I love that quote in conference. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, I can't wait to share this on the podcast. It's not necessarily something to be celebrated, but I love that he's bringing awareness to the fact that our marriages should be the strongest in the world, right? And not to be boastful about that, but like we have restored doctrine that should make our families look different than the rest of the world. So I was really happy when Shane talked about that, and I was grateful that President Dallin H. Oaks said the same thing. Like he's calling us to be better and to do better and to create the eternal celestial families that our Heavenly Father and our Heavenly Mother want for us.
I love, again, he reiterated what the prophet said, which is exaltation is a family affair. And going back to my own patriarchal blessing, it lists out all of these things that I'm supposed to do. And then it talks about that special someone. And it says, without her, these things are limited. And so understanding that, it's very important. If exaltation is the ultimate goal, it's a family affair. Salvation, I think, is a singular situation. I got to flying around here.
I will too. We should look up what flies mean.
They're gathering information. But because salvation is a individual pursuit, exaltation is something that starts with you and your spouse and then goes on with you, your spouse, and your children. So I love that.
Yeah, and I will say, talking about marriages and strengthening marriages, the more I got thinking about it, I was like, no wonder why a lot of people don't talk about this, because nobody has the perfect marriage, right? Like nobody is the picture perfect celestial marriage that we would like it to be. But just like I said in the last podcast, like we can't just not talk about it just because we haven't become it yet, because that's not helping us get towards what we're looking for. So, Dre, go to the next slide, please. So just like we talked about the steps of the covenant path, our last step on the covenant path is sealing. And Shane mentioned last time that it's not just going to the temple and being sealed, that that day of your wedding, it's creating a celestial family, which means that we're continuing to work on it throughout this life and even into eternity. So go to the next one. I just want to kind of remind you. So we're jumping off on sealing, and I already shared this one, but I just wanted to say a few things about the sealing. The whole world was created so that we could create families. The priesthood was restored so that we could be eternal families. And go to the next slide. All of this is our end goal, right? Like we talked about last time. We need to know where we're headed in order to know how to backtrack and reverse engineer where we're going to land, right? Like we want to become gods and goddesses one day. And so we need to start behaving like that now. You don't run a marathon in a day. You don't climb a mountain in a day. You have to just step by step progress and learn the behaviors of our heavenly parents. And I always find that truth in the doctrine so helpful that we can learn line upon line. Like we don't need to understand how to have the perfect marriage today or tomorrow, but if we keep heading in that direction, we'll learn and become eventually. You can go to the next slide. Okay, Shane, will you read this one?
Yep. It says, if you want something to last forever, you treat it differently. You shield it and protect it. You never abuse it. You don't expose it to the elements. You don't make it common or ordinary. If it ever becomes tarnished, you lovingly polish it until it gleams like new. It becomes special because you have made it so, and it grows more beautiful and precious as time goes by. Eternal marriage is just like that. We need to treat it just that way. I pray that we may see it for the priceless gift that it is.
Any thoughts on that quote?
My wife is walking in right now.
Perfect.
So, I think,
Happy to have you.
and welcome Angie, my beautiful eternal companion to the show. But when I look at that quote, and maybe you can go back to it real quick. The very first part of it is, if you want something to last forever, you got to treat it differently. And I think of anything, if you want it to last forever, you got to take care of it. You got to clean it. You got to, if you want something to last forever, you've got to really take care of this thing. And you got to be intentional about doing that. So you have to be intentional about saying, I want to create a lasting relationship with this individual who's different than me, who has different tastes and different likes and is a completely different, biologically different than me. And we've got to figure out how to make that last forever and be okay that it's also different. But then I also like shield it, protect it. And I think that's kind of the big job for the man physically, but you also need to shield and protect the relationship, right? And so that means that if something's bothering you, we've talked about this, one of the things that we don't do in our relationship is I don't share with anybody else what's bothering me or what challenges I may have that I'm working through on my marriage with anybody else but her. She's the only one that I talk to about that. I don't call my mom. I don't call my brother. I don't call my friend and talk about it. I don't. If something's not right, and the same is true with her. If there's something I'm doing that's bothering her, she just comes in and we deal with it together in our marriage. And to me, that goes to shielding it and protecting it. I don't know if you got anything to say on that. No? Okay.
I love what you're saying. And all of it is, I relate to so much of what you just said. Me and my husband are very different, right? I asked him to be on this podcast and he pleasantly declined. He was like, that is not my strength. That's not what I'm into, right? But Juria pointed out he was supportive of me, doing what's important to me, right? And it's okay that they're not the same as us. And I I can't say the same. I do talk with my clients and friends sometimes about my husband. I try to talk respectfully about him, but I could learn from your example. That's beautiful.
Okay.
Okay, next slide. Okay, I wanted to share a little bit about our story just to help make us a little bit more real. This is my husband, Blake. We met 10 years ago, and I just wanted to share because I love to share stories, but we met on January 24th of 2025, and we were married 4 months later.
Wow.
Crazy. I know, I never thought I would say that, but that's just what our story was about. I one day learned what people say, like, when you know, you know. I just never understood that phrase until it happened to me. But I'm very proud of my decision to marry Blake. He's so wonderful. Just a little bit of our timeline. We said I love you on day 14, and then we got engaged in 6 weeks. I know, I live for the shock factor.
Well, we did too.
Actually,
You did?
literally, we went on our first date July 14th. We were engaged by August 21st. So about the same, 6 weeks. And when you know, you know. And every other people are like, I can't believe it went that well. Like, when you know that's your person, it's a done deal. I mean, what are you waiting for?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't advise it. Like, it's not something you just like force, but it just happened for us. So yeah, I knew and he knew, and it was time. I always laugh though when I really think about it. 6 weeks is one transfer. Like, I served a mission, right? So one transfer is like you barely even know someone, right? I remember we were like about to get engaged, and he's like, but I want my brother to be there. And I was like, wait, what? Like, where's your brother? Like, I didn't even know him well enough to know where his brother was, which is crazy to me. Prior to this, I had told people you have to date through all of the seasons. So I was definitely surprised, to say the least. So
Well,
there we are. Go
an
ahead.
interesting side note. I'm seeing a pattern when I find people that do have this like beautiful marriage. It's fast like that. I don't know if there's a pattern. I'm not saying that that's the case for everybody, but as I talk to different people, that I say, oh, and I talk to somebody that's like, yeah, I'm struggling in my marriage, and I'm like, so how long did it take you guys like to decide? Oh man, it took me forever, or it took her forever, and I'm like, okay, maybe there's a pattern there. I'm just saying. But people that I'm finding, they're like, hey, we're doing really good in our marriage. Marriages aren't perfect, but hey, we're doing really good. We're on the same spiritual path together. I'm finding more often than not that it's like when they met, it was just like they knew. And so again, I'm not saying that's for everybody, but I'm saying in the conversations I'm having, that is a pattern that I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
It's early for her. She's like, I can't believe that you had me come on this podcast. That's a good wife.
I'm doing great listening.
So this is our family, and to your point, we are not the perfect family. We're not the perfect relationship, but we sure are trying, right? We're doing our best. We try to show up for each other. We try to parent together. Thankfully, we have the gospel in common. I can't imagine not having that. And there have been times in our lives where we do kind of feel like we're on our own paths, right? So it's a constant, like I said, step by step, we're trying to create that oneness and unity within our marriage. Go ahead and go to the next one. So just like Don H. Oakes referenced, he referenced back to Russell M. Nelson, and it's from this talk, Celestial Marriage. And this talk was so wonderful. I didn't have time to put more on a slide, but he talks a lot about the proclamation to the family, and this was back in 2008. And just in this last conference, we just had the 30-year reunion, or I don't know, 30 years since the proclamation was created and presented. And I just think that there's so many truths in that document that can teach us how to find the celestial marriages and families that we're looking for. In this talk, President Nelson, he shares that, like I said, the earth was created for this purpose, for us to create families that are exalted. He also shares about how it's kind of like shopping. Some people just shop for like a quick, fast, convenient buy. Some people really stew about it and think about it and make sure they're purchasing something that's worth value. And our marriages can be similar to that too. Some can be disposable, but some can be really meaningful and impactful. So I wanted to reference that in case you guys want to read that talk. It was a really beautiful talk. Let's go to the next.
I'm grateful that they're reaffirming the proclamation and they're not deviating from it, because right now there's so much confusion in the world as it relates to what a marriage is and what a marriage isn't. And even in the temple, it talks about being married under God's law, because we know currently under man's law, there's a lot of different types of marriages that can exist. And I'm grateful in 1995 that they did put that out there, and they're not deviating. They're not, because there are social pressures that are saying, hey, I think, these kind of marriages should be allowed in the church or should be allowed in the temple. And so I'm grateful that they reaffirmed that the marriage that is ordained of God is one of man and woman, male and female. And now people get to make a choice, and they have their agency, and they can choose whatever they would like to choose down here. But as far as God is concerned, and as far as his prophets and apostles are affirming exactly what marriage is, so that we're not getting confused.
Yeah. I think that's so beautiful too. And it's not always popular, right? Like, you can't serve two masters. You can't be of the world and a follower of Christ. And if you want that exaltation that we're talking about, like, you have to be willing to choose that. And it's worth it. To me, it's worth it. I love what you're saying too. Like, they're not changing doctrine to please the people. We're sticking to the doctrine that they believe is God's law, and I believe it to be his law as well. All right, let's talk about, so these are some of the people that I look up to. I hope this doesn't sound boastful, but I just wanted to share something a little bit more personal. And I realize the statistics of marriage in the world, as Elder Oaks was saying, are going down. A few years ago, it was 50% of marriages last. And so to me, I feel privileged and grateful that my parents have lasted for 39 years so far. And like I mentioned, they're not perfect, but they're trying, right? And they've figured it out thus far. Angie, would you mind reading a paragraph for us?
Sure.
Okay, just start at the top. This is some advice from my mom. Her name's Viola.
Realize that any relationship that lasts a significant amount of time, whether it be with best friends, a parent and a child, a boss and employee, it will ebb and flow. There's bound to be highs and lows, misunderstandings, disappointment, hurt, and every other reaction at some point in time. Don't get too caught up in them. Focus on them. Focus on the norm. Have gratitude for peace, support, and security you find in your relationship. Be respectful, never name call or speak disrespectfully to one another, even when upset. Show love and compassion, especially when you don't agree or understand where they're coming from. And if you need, give one another space.
That last line there, if you need, give one another space. I call it the loop. I tell people, don't get stuck in the loop. So where, you're just trying to prove your point or have a conversation. Sometimes the best thing to do, and we've learned this in our own marriage, is like take a 20-minute break, go on a walk, don't stay in the loop, and then you'll come back to it. And you'll be like, what was it we were even having a disagreement about? So I like that. If you need, give one another some space, and be okay if the other person's like, hey, I need some space. Don't keep going after the person. Just be like, okay, got it. Allow them the time that they need. And that's a mistake I've made in our relationship. I've made that mistake in my first relationship where it's like, no, I just got to get this out. I just have to do this. And I'm learning that you have to give the other person space. And sometimes that's the best medicine.
I wanted to share just with that. One of the things my husband and I have talked about is like not dumping something right before bed, because then we can't sleep and it's just stress. And it was like, oh, I didn't realize that he needed that boundary, because the only time I get to talk to him is when we're about to go to sleep. And I realized, oh, that's so rude to just be like, here's all my problems. Good night. I feel better. And you have to like stay up all night worrying about it. So we kind of put that boundary up of like, we're not going to have like those conversations at that time, most of the time.
Smart.
Yeah. And it's helpful to like plan accordingly, right? So you can't just say we can't talk about it right before bed and not have another time to talk about it, or we can't check out and avoid the problem and not come back to it, right? So it's good to build trust to come back to whatever it is we have a disagreement about, or like Drea is saying, like find another time that you can discuss something that's not right before bed. I know a lot of people say like, don't go to bed mad, but it's like, okay, well, you can't stay up all night looping either, right? So I don't know which is better, but I do think it's really important to come back to those conversations. But it does help to interrupt the pattern of the emotions for sure.
Totally.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. Would you mind continuing? Angie? Thank you.
Have individual interests that help you get time to recharge, grow, and develop yourself. And when you do the same for your spouse, they feel trusted, appreciated, and valued as well. Celebrate your differences often, and they are why you complement one another, yet we tend to let us come between. Let's try this again. Celebrate your differences often. They are why you complement one another, yet we tend to let us come between us. Be helpful. Spend time together. Find something you really enjoy doing with each other. Dates are essential.
Dates are essential, right? We have Friday night date night. And we have some friends every Friday night. It's on my calendar. It's what we do. Friday night date night. We've been doing this fun thing with a couple of other couples where it's like last week was our week to plan the date night. Next week it's a different couples. They're planning where we're eating and the activity we're doing. And it's been just, it used to be just her and I on date night. And we've developed some friends and it's been like, I look forward to Friday night. It's one of my favorite. And then we have Tuesday night temple and tacos. And so I call that like kind of it's a date night too, but it's temple night, but it's just consistent. We know on this day we do this thing, and it's just creating some routines and some consistency.
Yeah, I love that. That's a fun idea. And I like what Angie was reading. Like sometimes we let our differences get in the way, right? I don't know if she worded that very fluidly, but it's okay that we're different, right? We don't need to be the same to be one. Sometimes we are going to be different, and that's okay. Okay, so this is our family. I just wanted to give you kind of a perspective of what it is our end goal is, right? Like I said, we're not the perfect family, but we're all trying. Go to the next one. So this is Blake's parents. And they have also been married for 38 years.
Wow.
And when I asked my mother-in-law for some advice, this was the quote that she gave me. Drea, will you read it?
When you finally learn that a person's behavior has more to do with their own internal struggle than it ever did with you, you learn grace. I just loved it.
I think a lot of times in our marriages, the person we're married to is so close to us, they become like the closest mirror to us. So sometimes they're triggering us things from our past, and sometimes we're taking their stuff personal. So I love that quote. Just realizing they might be emotional for whatever reason, and that has more to do with them than it does with us. Okay, so the next one, this is their side of the family. And
They're large humans.
they are 300 pounders. So these are the three brothers that played at Weber State. Three of them. He has 5 brothers. And like I said, I'm not trying to brag, but I do want to share that every single sibling in our family on my side and Blake's side have been able to be married in the temple. And like we began with, we're all striving for the Holy Ghost to sanctify our marriages and create those eternal families, right? But I just feel really blessed that because our parents gave us a somewhat decent foundation, we've been able to follow the example, and we're learning along the way. A lot of us have a lot of growing to do. But I just feel in a world, like I said, that we have less than 50% of marriages making it, I just feel really grateful and privileged. Okay, so now I want to share some of the tips and tricks that have really helped me and my husband in our marriage. And I chose to take more of like a practical approach than like scriptural. First of all, that's more how my brain works, but there's scriptures to back up a lot of the things that I'm about to share. But I wanted to give you guys a shortcut of some of the best statistics and marriage advice that I've found. So there's this book called For All Eternity. It's by John Lund, and we also have the audio version here. In this book, the first chapter, it talks about a thing called content communicating. And this is something we learned early in our marriage. So on this page, it says, content communication is a technique built on the principle that words mean what they say. This direct approach is designed to reduce misunderstandings and strengthen relationships by eliminating reliance on assumptions or nonverbal cues. So it shares a statistic in the book that most often miscommunications in marriage are because your words aren't matching your body language or your tone or any number of things, right? So the book invites you and your spouse to agree that you are going to content communicate, right? So when you say something, the words matter more than the tonality and the body language. And the book shares that it went from a 20% miscommunication rate all the way down to a 3 in 200, I believe is the statistic. I wrote it down, but I'm not sure where my note is. Anyway, it significantly helped these marriages not have miscommunications. And so I wanted to invite you guys to strive to content communicate. So when you're thirsty and driving past the gas station, you don't say, I'm thirsty. You say, hey, babe, can you stop at the gas station? Does that make sense?
Yeah, gotcha.
So
That takes a lot of practice because we just kind of we do that so much. I do that so much. Like, well, you should have known what I meant.
So if Angie just said something. So say it.
I said you would just stop because you would already have known that I was thirsty before I even said anything.
That's like, so we've been practicing like
We're really good at just knowing
like
because we've been working on it. Like
if I'm like thinking, I wonder what's for dinner tonight, and I say it in my head here, she'll text me, hey, I'm thinking this for dinner tonight, or what do you want for dinner tonight? And
usually I'm just asking what time you want dinner, but it's, I don't know. It's more, I feel like you really know me well and that you care to know me well. And so you were like if you go get a fizz, you just pick me up a certain one.
yeah, I think that
I don't know.
That's
We're just really
a good companion is one that is always thinking about the other companion. And like, what can I do for this companion? What can I do to serve this my favorite person? If I go to the grocery store, I'll give you an example. I go to the grocery store because I need to go get some Gorilla Mind for me. I'm definitely going to go and because I know she loves Harmon's freshly squeezed orange juice. So I'm going to get that. I'm not even going to ask if there's some in the fridge or not. I'm going to get it because even if there is some in the fridge, she'll drink that and then she'll have another one right there. And so I think the more you understand your person and their needs and then the more you're actively like, I wonder what I can do today to make their day a little better. It just makes your relationship flow. And she does the same for me. And it really works, understanding your person's needs before they even have to say anything. Like that's a big deal. But we've been super intentional because we both came out of marriages that didn't last, that didn't work. And so we both said, I don't want to go through that again. Divorce is the most horrible thing on the planet. And so it was like, if we're going to do this, we got to figure out how we become one. And so it's just us kind of being intentional about how we do that.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are just being thoughtful and not selfish. You're thinking about the other person and how you can make their day better, or just even remembering them does feel good in a marriage. You feel secure and you feel cared about. I love that. Go ahead, Drea.
Oh, I was just gonna say, because I'm imagining the people listening, and maybe they feel out like not in control of like what their spouse does or doesn't do in this kind of situation. Do you have any thoughts for people like, well, if maybe they're already struggling in their marriage, like what could they do to kind of get closer?
I think they can just start modeling it, doing it. So really try to forward think about your spouse and what they need.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Just be an example.
And sit down and be intentional about, like, if you want to be one with this person, don't wait for the millennium. Like I hear people are like, well, when the millennium comes, then they're going to be the perfect spouse. I got news for you. The same spirit that's with you today will be with you in the millennium. So you've got to get yourself prepared, and you've got to say, hey, let's become one. Let's be intentional about this. Like, how can we be on the same wavelength? And that means being vulnerable. That means this is where I'm trying to go spiritually. Like, are you trying to go there? And it's scary because you might find out that they're not interested in that. That creates a whole nother conversation. And sometimes we don't want to have these conversations because we're like, but what if they don't want to go where I'm going? That's a scary thought. So it's almost like, I'm not even going to talk about it. And Bailey said this earlier, like, no, you have to have these tough conversations. Otherwise, you'll end up in a place where the Holy Spirit of promise can't seal that relationship. And so, you just need to have these conversations and be intentional about it. And I wasn't in my first marriage. I just was like, she's a member of the church and I think she's cute and it'll work out. And because I wasn't intentional with her, it didn't work out.
Yeah, I think so the book talks a little bit more about other examples too, right? It's the idea that like your spouse reading your mind doesn't mean they love you more. Obviously it's impressive. But like Shane was saying, you have to be vulnerable, right? Like if you're not giving them the bone to like know what you like or what you need or what birthday present you want, they're not going to read your mind, right? So
It's true.
Ultimately, it's about, do you want to be connected or do you want to be disconnected, right? Like learning to communicate this way helps you just, like I said, it increases your likelihood of miscommunications. It decreases it significantly, right? So it increases you communicating effectively, which leads to less hurt feelings. And I feel like the example you guys just gave was exactly that of the quote. Like you're treating it different because you want it to be something different, right? You're protecting it. You're caring about each other. You're being intentional. All of those things are things that you do if you want it to last. Okay, let's go to the next one. The next one is, so this is Robert and Charlotte Snow. They are actually the people who taught me about NLP, which is a coaching program. but they have devoted most of their life the past few years to creating this account. It's a podcast and a social media account. I look at it on Instagram. But
they got the 6-second kiss.
So
You gonna talk about that? What that does?
Yeah. So first of all, those are the rituals that we have put into our marriage, like we've agreed on and chosen to implement. But we learned about rituals from Robert and Charla. So on their podcast, they share really great tips that are practical. They also share about their backgrounds. Their parents were very like volatile, and their marriages were rough. And so they come into a marriage and they didn't have models of great marriages prior. And they talk about how they were able to evolve and change in their marriage. And they also have a background in studying John Gottman's work. They hosted a retreat in Costa Rica a few years ago, and me and Blake were able to go, and they helped us instill a few really good skills into our marriage that I've loved. So the rituals is something that they taught us from John Gottman's research. And if you guys haven't heard of John Gottman, he is like probably the most well-known for marriage research. And he they taught us about rituals, right? So Shane mentioned the 6-second kiss. That's something that we have decided was important to us, to have at least a 6-second connection. And it's kind of fun. Like sometimes it starts at 6 seconds and it goes a little longer, but we know every day in our marriage, we've both agreed to connecting for 6 seconds, having a kiss. The 8-second hug is something that we learned about on Instagram, but we do that with all of our kids. We hold them and have intentional connection with each person of our family for 8 seconds. And those are very, very practical things you can implement into your marriage, right? We do weekly date nights, like we said. I mentioned on our last podcast, weekly planning, where we go over our week and our schedules. We too attend the temple, and our goal right now is once a month, but do whatever you can. And then I put on here sex once a week. So I don't know where I got this advice, but when we were newly married, someone mentioned to me that you and your spouse should have an agreement about how often you're going to be intimate. And it doesn't mean that you have to do, like, it's still consensual, right? Like you can be intimate as often as you want, but it's helpful to know what your expectations are as a couple. So I don't know, for us that works really good.
I think that's really important. I run into people and they'll be talking to me about their marriage and their challenges. And I'll ask the questions, how often are you intimate? I am literally hearing from people twice a year, 4 times a year. And I'm just going, well, that's a problem. That if you're not creating that connection, that's a problem. So if you're watching this and you're not creating that connection, you got to figure something out, because that's not good. And so you've got to create these connections. 8-second hug, 6-second kiss. A 6-second kiss releases oxytocin. Like it does so many things.
We've been doing that 6 months.
The 6-second kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've implemented that. But I also, before I go to work, I give Angie a kiss
And sometimes
every morning.
it wakes me up again.
Yeah,
I'm like, why is this guy kissing me?
yeah, every morning. I
does every morning.
I heard that you live longer. The man who kisses his wife before work lives like exponentially longer than the man who doesn't. So I'm like, give me some of that life force. I need some of that life force. But there's also this, and hopefully we release this podcast, but we talk about the sharing of DNA and how that purifies and cleanses. And the woman is like the washing machine for the blood and sins of the man. Remember, in the temple, a woman is clean every whit, but a man must become clean through his faithfulness. And there's something about the process of sharing that DNA, whether through a kiss or whether through intimacy, it's important. If you're not doing that, you need to sit down with your spouse and have a conversation about how you develop a more intimate type of affectionate relation where there's physical touch involved, because there's something really healthy about that.
Yeah. You just reminded me of something. In my patriarchal blessing, it says something to the effect of express love in your home often, right? So I think that's another thing that you could do easily, right? Giving, this is also a John Gottman phrase, but it's called bids for connection. Just offering a reason to connect with your spouse, right? And then obviously them reciprocating it helps so much too. But the more bids you can offer, your spouse will feel cared about and loved. And yeah, I agree. I feel like the hormone release in intimacy is so good for both parties. And learning to give and receive and all of that is so beautiful. I think it's designed by God, right? Like a lot of LDS culture can be like weary or nervous about intimacy. And I think we just need to remember why God created it and use it as intended.
Yeah. And be intentional about it. Be super intentional about it. And the more you are intentional about everything you do, the better experience you're going to create.
Yes, agreed. The next thing that these guys have taught me, and they also have been married for 33 years, is about perpetual problems. So this is something that really impacted me. Dre, will you read this one?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
John Gottman's research revealed that 69% of the time when couples were asked to talk about an area of continuing disagreement, they discussed a perpetual issue. That's it.
Well, that's a big chunk, right? Almost 70% of the time, it's going to be a perpetual issue, right? So for me, just learning that was like normal helped me so much, right? Just to know that in marriages, you're going to have things you disagree about, and you're going to keep disagreeing about some of them over and over and over, and it's okay. Honestly, just normalizing that for me helps me a lot.
That does. Like, for me, as I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking of how I lost my husband's key fob, and he brings it up every time he can. But like, there's more serious things like that just keep coming up, and that does feel really good to be like, this is a thing. This is what it's like when you're with someone for so long. We've been together 19 years, and it's just like, okay, what's the next thing we get to learn here about this issue? We're always like upgrading like our knowledge of how we handle things together.
Yeah, so true. What was that look about, Shane? And
Oh, I don't know. I was just trying to think. I can't even think of a perpetual issue that I'm dealing with her. I'm like going through my head, what's a perpetual issue? And I'm like trying to figure out what it is, and I don't have one. So I was just trying to figure out what my perpetual issue was. I'm sure she's got some for me.
well, think about.
I think we've learned to respond to each other quickly. Like a perpetual issue that you could have with me, that you would have, because it is you. Okay. I mean, if I didn't consistently make sure that your laundry was always done, I know you'd love it.
That would be a perpetual issue. Like if I was like didn't have garments.
But
I'm not experiencing that.
But I don't work. So I say my job is to do all the house stuff, and I need to make sure all that stuff's done. But my point is, I mean, I think we are thinking about, I don't think we can think of a perpetual issue because we are thinking about
what would be a perpetual issue.
Doing that stuff.
She knows that I would be really frustrated if I didn't have clean clothes.
And I think we do good at this because we were married before. I mean, we had a long time of working on what we were good at, what we weren't good at. So not everyone, I mean, I think this isn't normal for us to have. It's not normal, but I think it's taken time to work because we're both 45. I'm on my third marriage. You're on your second.
And we don't have kids that I know kids can create
Lots of the issues. So I do have the availability to think about my spouse a lot and how to help him. But I think because there was a time where I was working, and I know that's hard for people. You know, your mind is up here. And so I don't know. I think it's just a time in our life that we have been able to work on it.
Yeah. Just so you have like some examples, some might be like how you spend your money. It's very likely that a woman and a man have different opinions of how they want to spend the money or what they want to buy, big purchases, or how to parent the kids.
I just thought of a perpetual issue. It's the dog walkers.
How's that an issue? You said I could have a dog walker every now and then.
I'm just kidding.
Are you? He is so okay. No.
I let her do whatever. It's my job to make enough money so if she wants to have a dog walker, she can have a dog walker. So that's on me.
It's not every day. But that's true. That's something stupid. But he knows that I love to make sure my dogs get out at least twice a day. So I'll walk them once, but I love that someone else can walk them. And that helps me to make sure I have the laundry in the house and I have a lot of time on my hands. That's true. But
so when something comes up, it will just feel more normal to you, right? Like everyone has these things, and whether they're big or small, it's okay to know that you don't have to agree on every single thing in your marriage. Okay, let's go to the next one. So now it's time for me to be vulnerable and share a little bit of like what I want to work on. So this is one of the first skills that you learn in coaching is how to acknowledge and validate a client. And this is something that I've realized. I work with a counselor. He's really amazing. His name is Bo Bushai, and his counseling office is called Cobalt Counseling. It's in Taylorsville, but through working with him, I realized that I want to be better at acknowledging and validating my spouse. When we were talking one day, I realized that I am very good at acknowledging and validating my children and being patient with them. But when Blake tells me something or vents to me, it was easy in the past for me to just dismiss whatever he was saying or try to fix what he was saying. And so this is something that I feel is important for me to work on, is just when he has something he needs to say or a complaint about one of our siblings or something, I'm trying to be intentional about hearing him, right? People just want to be heard. They don't want to be fixed. And so for me, that's
true.
Something that I'm really working on being better at.
People want to be heard. They don't want to be fixed, guys. And I had to learn this the hard way. Just validate. I can totally see why that would be frustrating to you. I can totally understand where you're coming from. Those are phrases. Those are important phrases. Love that.
Yeah. And for me, I was feeling like if I gave him that, like, I don't know how to explain it. I felt like if I was validating him, that was like telling him he can keep complaining about our siblings or something like that. Does that make sense? But ultimately, me validating him, he was able to move on so much faster, right? So I just realized like he just wants to be heard. Anyway, this is another book that I wanted to share with you guys. Anthony Sweat has written 3 books about the temple. And this is the most recent one. And full transparency, I haven't read it yet. It's brand new, but his other 2 books have been amazing in helping me understand and digest the temple. And so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. And he and his wife, Cindy, wrote this book. It's called The Holy Sealing. And Shane, would you read this? This is the description on Amazon about this book.
Although sealing is central to the restoration, sometimes we understand it beyond living together in heaven. Sealing, however, orders eternity, links generations, secures blessing, continues priesthood, and enables exaltation. In this third companion book to the best-selling volumes, The Holy Invitation and The Holy Covenants, Anthony and Cindy Sweat explore more broadly what the holy sealing is doing, by it, why it is essential, and how it blesses us. Drawing from the scriptures and words of the prophets, they teach about the organization of heaven, God's work and glory, the marriage sealing promises, covenant children as heirs, the great chain of the priesthood, the latter-day offering of temple work for the dead, and the centrality of the Lord Jesus Christ in perfecting God's divine family. No matter your current situation, the holy sealing offers clarity, comfort, and confidence in the Lord's divine work to unite the eternal family of God. I need to get that. That looks like a great book.
Yeah, sounds amazing. So I'm gonna read it and I'll report back one day. But these books are almost like pamphlets. They're like 90 pages long, but they're very easy to read. And if it follows the pattern, he uses metaphors. He uses very common knowledge. He worked at BYU, or he maybe still does, but he hears a lot of commonly asked questions about the temple from his students. And then I feel like that helps him to put into words what most of us are thinking or worrying or wondering about in a really easy way for you to digest it. So
Love it.
I wanted to share that one. And then that's pretty much the end of what I've prepared. I wanted to offer this free lesson plan to teach about the covenant path to you and your family. And then if you have any questions for me or you want to reach out, you can reach out to my email, which is thelittleflockpress at gmail.com. I didn't put that one on here, but through Instagram or Etsy, you can also find me. I just wanted to end with my testimony. I know that our eternal marriages are the most important thing that we can put our time and effort and energy into in this life. And my goal in my life is to become like my heavenly parents. And I'm so grateful that I have a spouse who is right there with me and supporting me. And I feel called to share some of these things with you. And I hope that you can receive it and also be inspired to become like our heavenly parents. And I'm so thankful that Christ has helped us to become one and to be able to repent and change and strive to be better over and over again. And any last thoughts?
Amen. Love it. Thank you, Bailey, so much for sharing that. And I second that. Listen, one of the most important things that we can do in this life is find that companion of yours you want to spend eternity with. And I'm grateful that the first date I went on once I was released from prison was Angie. And I know that our Heavenly Father's hand was preparing me for our relationship. And I'm so grateful for that. She knows I'm not going to get emotional. She knows how much I love her. And she looks at me to see if I am, because I will.
Yes, almost every day. So many times he'll look at me and just get teary-eyed and say,
Yeah.
I love you so much.
Because I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. She has my back. She's my roll dog. She's just like, she's awesome. She's amazing. And I'm just really grateful to have that. And to have Christ kind of in our relationship as we, move down that covenant path, and as we strive to obtain exaltation and continue on the spiritual path that both of us are on. She said something to the phrase, "Let no man put us under." Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I said, "What do you think that means?" And it was talking about becoming one flesh. And she said, "I got it. I figured it out."
That. Well, it wasn't just that, let no man. It's the whole verse.
Right. That talks about becoming one flesh.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, remind people that's actually what it is. The one becoming no flesh. One flesh.
Yeah. And remember what you said?
I say, yeah, it's that your mission's my mission and that we're one. But it's taken a lot of effort. I mean, we've been married 5 years, but we were married years to another person. So we've gone through trials and errors with each other and with other people to really figure out how we can best show up for somebody. So I think being older and our second, third marriage, I think has helped us be able to do this.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
We're those people that it takes us a little while to figure things out.
finally in our 40s, we found a marriage that we're able to.
Yeah. So listen,
Anyway.
if you're single out there, you've been divorced, hey, there's hope, and we're living proof.
It could be in prison. Just hold on a little longer.
That's true. Well, thank you so much, Bailey, for coming on. Drea, thanks for your comments. Angie, thanks for joining the podcast today. Hey, if you like this message, smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed to Zion Media, what are you doing? We're trying to get to 20,000. We need your help. We're about 19,000 right now. We need to get to 20,000. So go ahead, send this to somebody. If you feel like this can help them, send it to them. Doesn't cost you anything. Go ahead and send it out. For myself, I'm Shane Baldwin. For Angie K. Baldwin, Bailey Scheiss, and Drea the Bomb, we'll see you guys all next time.